Hello, and welcome again to another edition of The Voice Crying in the Wilderness. Today's subject is the trial of Jesus, part 2. This is edition 76. I'm going to start with he said, "Let this man go," Nicodemus said to the Jews, "because the very miracles in which you accuse him are from God. Furthermore, he is not worthy of death." The Jews said to Nicodemus, "Art thou become his disciple, and art making speeches in his favor?" Nicodemus said, "Is the governor Pilate become his disciple also? And does he make speeches in his favor? Did not Caesar place him in the high post?" When the Jews heard this, they trembled with anger and gnashed their teeth at Nicodemus, and said to him, "Mayest thou receive his doctrine for truth, and have thy lot with Christ?" Nicodemus replied, "Amen. I will receive his doctrine, and my lot with him, as ye have said." Then another Jew stood up and said, "I laid for 38 years by the sheep pool in Jerusalem, laboring under a great infirmity, and waiting for a cure in which would be coming through the wrath of an angel, who of a certain time troubled the water. And whosoever first, after the troubling of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatever disease he had. When Jesus saw me lingering there, he said to me, 'Would thou be made whole?' And he answered, 'I have no man to put me in the pool when the water is troubled, to make me whole.' And he said unto me, 'Rise, and take up thy bed, and walk.' And I was immediately made whole, and took up my bed, and walked. The Jews then said to Pilate, 'Ask him on what day it was on the cure from this infirmity.'" Ridiculous. The man replied, "It was on the Sabbath." The Jews said, "Did we not say he cures on the Sabbath, and he casts out devils by the means of devils?" And another Jew came forth and said, "I was blind, and I could hear sounds, but could not see anyone. And as Jesus was gone along, I heard the multitude passing by, and I cried out, 'Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me.' And he stood still and commanded that I be brought to him, and said to me, 'What willest thou?' And I said, 'Lord, that I may receive my sight.' He said to me, 'Receive thy sight.' And instantly I saw, and followed him, praising and giving thanks. Another Jew came forth and said, 'I was a leper, and he cured me by his word only. Say, I will be thou clean.' And presently I was clean from my leprosy. And another Jew came forth and said, 'I was crooked, and he made me straight by his word.' And a certain woman named Veronica said, 'I was afflicted with an issue of blood 12 years, and I touched the hem of his garment, and presently the issue of blood stopped.' The Jews said, 'When we have a law that a woman should not be allowed as evidence.' After that, other things, another Jew said, 'I saw Jesus invited to a wedding, and there was a want of wine. And when it was all drank, he commanded the servants to fill 6 pots with water, and he blessed them and turned them into wine. And all the people drank, being surprised at this miracle. And another Jew stood forth and said, I saw Jesus teaching in the synagogue, and there was a certain man who had a devil, and he cried out, Let me alone. What have we to do with ye, Jesus of Nazareth? Art thou come to destroy us? I know that thou art the Holy One of God. And Jesus rebuked him, and saying, Hold thy peace, thy unclean spirit, and come out of the man, and come out of that man. And presently he came out of him, and did not at all hurt him. And a Pharisee said, I saw a great company coming from Galilee and Judea and other places, and many were in a multitude, and he healed them all. And I heard the unclean spirits crying out, Thou art the Son of God. And Jesus quickly charged them that they should not make him known. After this, another person, Centurios, said, My servant lieth at home sick with a palsy. And Jesus said to me, I will come and cure him. But I said to the Lord, I am not worthy that thou should come under my roof, but only speak thy word, and my servant shall be healed. And Jesus said unto me, Go thy way, as thou hast believed, so shall it be unto thee. And my servant was healed from that hour. And a certain nobleman said, I had a son who laid at the point of death. And when I heard that Jesus was coming to Galilee, I went and besought him, and he would come down to my house and heal my son, for he was at the point of death. And he said to me, Go thy way, and thy son liveth. And my son was cured from that hour. Besides these, many others and Jews cried out, He is truly the Son of God, who cures all diseases only by his word, and to whom the devils are subject. This power could proceed from none other but God. Pilate said to the Jews, Why are not the devils subject to your doctrines? Some of them said, The power of subjecting devils could proceed but from God. But others said to Pilate that he raised Lazarus from the dead after he had been 4 days dead in the grave. Pilate, hearing this, trembled and said to the multitude, What will it profit you to shed innocent blood? Pilate said, You know that ye have a custom that I should release to you one prisoner at the feast of the Passover. I have a noted prisoner, a murderer, who is called Barabbas, and Jesus, who is called Christ, in whom I find nothing in which deserves death. Which of them, therefore, do you have in mind to be released? And they all cried out, Release to us Barabbas. Pilate said to them, What then shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ? They all answered, Let him be crucified. And again they cried out to Pilate, You are not the friend of Caesar, if you release this man, for he has declared that he is the Son of God and King. Will you incline that he should be king and not Caesar? Then Pilate, filled with anger, said to them, Your nation has always been seditious, and you have always been against those of service to you. The Jews replied, Who are those who have been serviceable to us? Pilate answered and said, Your God, who delivered you from hard bondage of Egypt and brought you over the Red Seas, that it had been dry land, and fed you in the wilderness with manna and flushes of quails, and brought water out of a rock, and gave you a law from heaven. Ye provoked him always, and desired for yourselves a molten calf. and worshipped it, and sacrificed unto it, said, These art thou gods, O Israel, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, on which that your God was inclined to destroy you. But Moses interceded, and your God heard him, and forgave your iniquities. Afterwards you were enraged again, and would have killed your prophet Moses and Aaron when they fled to the tabernacle. You were always murmuring against God and his prophets, and arising from his judgment seat as he would have gone out. Oh, here, let's start. Arising from his judgment seat, he would have gone out, but the Jews all cried out, We acknowledge Caesar to be king and not Jesus. Whereas this person, as soon as he was born, the wise men came and offered gifts unto him, to which, when Herod heard, he was extremely troubled, and would have killed him. When his father knew this, he fled with Mary to Egypt. Herod, when he heard he was born, would have slain him, and accordingly sent and slew all the children in which were in Bethlehem, and in all the coasts from 2 years old and under. When Pilate heard this account, he was afraid, and commanded silence among the people who made the noise. He said to Jesus, Art thou therefore a king? All the Jews replied to Pilate, He is the very person Herod proclaimed to have slain. See, the Jews knew way more than people think they knew, and they probably still do. But for some reason, just like man, they don't really want to know their God. They don't want to accept a God. They'd rather have a king. Then Pilate, taking water, washed his hands before the people, and said, I am innocent of the blood of this man, this just person. Look ye to it. And the Jews answered and said, His blood be upon us and our children. Then Pilate commanded Jesus to be brought before him, and spoke to him in the following words, Thy own nation has charged thee as making thyself a king. Wherefore I, Pilate, sentence thee to be whipped according to the law of former governors, and thou be thus bound and nailed upon a cross in the place in where thou art now a prisoner, and the 2 criminals with thee, whose names are Demas and Gestas. Then Jesus went out of the hall, and the 2 thieves went with him. And when they came to the place called Golgotha, they ripped him of his garment and his raiment, and girded him about with a linen cloth, and put a crown of thorns upon his head, and put a reed in his hand. And in like manner they did to the 2 thieves who were crucified with him, Demas on his right hand, and Gestas on his left. But Jesus said, My Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they divided his garments, and upon his vesture they cast lots. Oh, Lord, help me get through this. The people in the meantime stood by, the priests and elders of the Jews, and mocked him, saying, He saved others, let him now save himself, if he can, if he be the Son of God. Wow, that's Satan's temptation right there. If you be the Son of God, let him now come down from the cross. The soldiers also mocked him, taking vinegar and gall, and putting it on a sponge, offered him to drink, and said to him, If thou art the king of the Jews, deliver thyself. Then a certain soldier, taking a spear, pierced his side, and presently there came forth blood and water. Pilate wrote the title on the cross in Hebrew, Latin, and Greek letters, namely, This is the King of the Jews. But one of the two thieves, in which was crucified with Jesus, in which was Gestas on the left, said, If thou art the Son of God, deliver thyself and us. But the thief on the right hand, in which was Demas, answering, rebuked Gestas, and said, Doest thou not fear God, who hath condemned us to this punishment? We indeed received rightly and justly the demerit of our nation, but Jesus, what evil hath he done? After this, groaning, he said to Jesus, Lord, remember me when thou comest into thy kingdom. Jesus answered and said unto him, Verily I say unto thee, that this day thou shalt be with me in paradise. And about the 6th hour, darkness was on the face of the whole earth, the darkness of hell, until the 9th hour. And while the sun was eclipsed, behold, the veil of the temple was ripped from the top to the bottom, and the rocks also were rent, and the graves opened, and many bodies of the saints which slept arose. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which is, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And after these things Jesus said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit, and gave up the ghost. And when the centurion saw Jesus crying out, and thus gave up the ghost, he glorified God, and said, Of a truth, this was a just man. And all the people were exceedingly troubled at the sight, and reflecting on what had passed, they smote their breasts and returned to Jerusalem. The centurion went to Pilate and reported all that had took place. And when he heard all these things, he was exceedingly sorrowful, and called the Jews together, and said to them, Have you seen the miracles of the sun eclipse, and the other things in which came to pass while Jesus was on the cross dying? The Jews answered, The eclipse of the sun happened according to his usual custom. And Joseph came and asked for the body, and he and Nicodemus buried the body of Jesus. Thank you.